so I'll get started. Good evening, Mr. Lohan, and thank you so much for joining us for today's interview session. We are so happy that you could be with us. And before we get started, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Indiana ADRIE alongside my partner.
I'm Marissa Safiyya, just call me Marissa.
And we are...
Nice to meet you.
We are English communication students from College Professional Mara Sri Iskandar, Perak. And today we are going to conduct an interview session with you in conjunction of our Pragmatics in Intercultural Communication assignment. Alright, so let's get started. Can you introduce yourself to us and explain a little bit about your background?
Okay, so my name is Lohan. I'm 24 years old. I'm a pilot, but I'm currently working as a safety and quality executive at a flying academy. So I'm still in the aviation industry, but I'm still waiting to join airlines.
All right. Next question. Can you please explain in brief about your workplace and the different cultures that are present over there?
Okay, so my workplace it's an aviation industry. It's a flying academy where we train like new pilots to be able to get a license so that they become our future pilots. So it's a multicultural organization. So like you can find Chinese, Muslim, Indian, Singh. So we are open to all races.
Oh, all right. Okay, moving on to the next question. Do you have difficulties interpreting other people's phonology of English while practicing intercultural communication in your workplace?
Okay, so for my line of work, communication is a key factor because I need to be able to get like, statements. I need to investigate. So when I'm dealing with people from other like culture and other races, sometimes their slang, like the way they pronounce, it gets in the way of it. So it's not always like smooth communication.
I see. All right. Moving on to the next question. Do you incorporate slang in your intercultural communication while speaking to others who come from a different culture than you? Could you please share with us your experience with that and provide any examples of slang, if you have any?
Okay, so for me personally, I seldom use any slang when I'm like speaking in a professional way, especially in my line of work. But the people I speak to, I interact with, they do use slang in their communication. But for me, when I'm like doing my work or anything which is like requiring me to be professional, I do not use slang. But when we are just having fun, just like talking to hang out, that's when I like let loose a bit. I speak more like calmly, more friendlier, and I incorporate slangs in my speech.
I see. All right, the last question from me. Has using email or text messages impacted the way you communicate and the effectiveness in the workplace? And did it ever bring any conflicts?
I'm not sure about this, but for me personally, when we text, we text very friendly lah. So like right now, I use la. We use la, me, ba. So we use this kind of slang in our communication, which sometimes could cause some confusion for those who are not used to it.
I see. Thank you so much, Mr. Lohan. I'll pass to my partner next.
Okay, hi Mr. Lohan.
Hi Marissa.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. So can you share an experience where someone's tone of voice seemed disrespectful to you, even if the words that they used were polite actually?
Okay, so for my friends who are like Chinese, they sometimes like to speak in a direct, the way they pronounce things are very strong. So they might not realize it when they are trying to speak normally, they're trying to be casual, friendly, but the tone, the pronunciation they use feels as if it's aggressive. So for anyone they are not familiar with, they can be easily offended or intimidated by them.
I see, understand. Okay, moving on. What do you think about making eye contact during intercultural communication? Is it a common practice in your workplace?
For me, yes, since I investigate things. I try to figure out any like mishaps or something. During our investigation, I always try to maintain eye contact because eye contact speaks a lot about a person. It says a lot.
Okay, interesting. Moving on. What does silence communicate based on your cultural background? Does it affect your intercultural communication?
Come again? Sorry.
What does silence communicate in your cultural background? I mean, if someone, for example, if someone the situation is silence, okay, does it represent like awkwardness, or is it actually reflect that someone is thinking, or what's not?
Silence is not really valued because it makes it feel like there's awkwardness in between. So the longer the silence, the more awkwardness it gets, because you feel like the person is uncertain or not confident to talk to us, and he's trying to like, how to say this, the word for it. He's just trying to figure out what he's trying to say next without like trying to be rude. So like it shows a lot about the person. But in some, like during some scenarios, silence also shows that you're trying to be respectful. So like in my line of work, I try to remain silent after like giving out like a strong question. Like for example, I question about someone's like credibility. So I leave some silence for them to be able to think, to be able to form a proper answer, as every single answer is being recorded.
Interesting. Okay. Next question. What do you think influences conflict management the most in your workplace?
I feel like culture value influences conflict management. What exactly is like the main point of this question? Yeah, like what's the expectation of my answer for this? I don't actually understand it.
Oh, the question?
Yeah.
So what do you think influences conflict management the most? I mean,
when conflict arises and there are different things that affects the way someone manages certain conflicts. So in terms of their background or certain things in their background, such as perhaps gender or their culture or religion, what do you think influences conflict management in a person the most?
Okay, so for me, culture, like I said earlier, culture is one of the most common thing that influences it. As in some culture, they just tend to like I say, like push it under a rug and just ignore it and just like try to move on immediately. While some, they promote like discussion, understanding between each other. But it also ties down to their values as a person. Because some people, they prefer to solve it at the root cause, while some, they just tend to like macam tutup satu mata, like close an eye.
So your answer would be cultural values, is it? The most that affects conflict management?
Yeah.
I see. Thank you so much.
Because okay, yeah.
Oh, would you like to elaborate?
You want me to finish, is it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I would like to elaborate a little bit more.
Sure, yes.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, I like to elaborate a bit more. So let's say for Chinese, among my Chinese colleagues, whenever like something bad happens where we have to like resolve something, they'll be like, it's okay, just forget it. They tend to just like push it aside and just like try to move on immediately. While for, let's say, within my Malay colleagues, they'll be asking why, like what happened, what made me feel upset, like what's wrong. They try to like get to the root of the issue.
I see.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. That's really happened. Okay.
Yeah.
So last but not least, our last question. So do you think language could pose as an issue for conflict to arise in your workplace?
There's two ways to view this question, in my opinion. Like one of the way to view it is, one is yes, it can solve conflicts, as in like you're able to understand a common language between each other, so you're able to understand each other what you're trying to say. But at the same time, it can also be misunderstood if you don't really understand the language well enough. So, for example, let's say if I'm trying to solve an issue between me and my colleague, and I try to like speak in a manner that's polite and respectful, but he misunderstood me, thinking I'm trying to provoke him.
Yes.
Like, it's good that we have language for us to be able to communicate with each other, because without language, we wouldn't be able to understand one another. That's the basis of human society right now, to be able to understand one another, to work together. But at the same time, it can be misunderstood if you are not well versed in it.
I see. Yes, thank you so much for your insight. So, and with that, I think our interview session has already come to the end. Okay, thank you again for taking your time to share your experiences with us during our interview session for today. Your input will be very valuable for our assignments, and we really appreciate your willingness to help. So we are grateful for this opportunity and looking forward to work with you again in the future. So once again, thank you for your time, Mr. Lohan. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Lohan.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day too. I hope to be able to be of help to you in future too.